Welcome to Christian Life Adventure, and thanks for tuning in. It's great to have you with us today, and we definitely appreciate your support. What if I told you that you have a conflicting vision for your life, for your family's life, for your future and theirs? Not purposefully, mind you, but rather that it changes and it holds you back. Let's look at why that is, and let's see how to change that for a better outcome for you and for those in your life.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We all have goals, dreams, ambitions, desires, and a vision for what we'd like in life. Consider that. Some of us have had bulletin boards that we've posted things on with a short term goal of a year or less and long term goals of maybe 5 years or more. And then some of us have not really consciously thought about it, but we've just wanted a little bit nicer of a car. We're tired of this one breaking down, so we had a vision for a good running car or a brand new car. Maybe we weren't satisfied in our relationship and we hoped for a loving, beautiful wife. Maybe we had a poor job that really just didn't work out for us. We didn't like the environment or the pay, and we had a dream or a vision for a better job, maybe a very specific one. And in life, we start to attain those things by the steps that we take. Now let's contrast a couple of things. I want you to think about one of the best times in your life. Maybe you think of when you got one of those jobs, or you got a promotion at the job that you had, or you finally got that brand new car. You met the girl of your dreams and you got married. Maybe you were wanting to go to church and have everybody there, and you went on an Easter Sunday. Maybe that's the only time you went all year. And you had on your Sunday's best, and you had everybody in the car, and you were creating this wonderful experience. Maybe it was for a vacation. Think of that moment. Think of how your mindset was at that moment. Things were great. You were on top of the world. Now contrast that with your most desperate time. Everybody has times of need and desperation. Everything's not mountaintops. There is valleys and lows in life. So think of whenever you were at your lowest. Maybe you ruined that relationship from infidelity. Maybe you lost that job because you didn't do a good job, or you didn't show up, or whatever it may be. You were late. Think of you had that car. Maybe you didn't make the payment and you broke down or you lost it. Think about when you really needed Him in your life. When you needed to be bailed out, maybe physically bailed out from jail or something, but you needed God to bail you out. You needed a miracle. Think of those two situations, right? And then think about what they produced. When you were at that high, when you were at that mountaintop, you had that brand new car. Maybe you thanked God for it, and you thanked Him for the job and how great things were. But what followed that? When you were at your best times, did you continue to cling to Him? Because we know during our most desperate times, when we really needed Him, when we needed that bailing out, that's when we clung to Him. That's when we turned to Him in prayer. We leaned on Him, and we were desperate, and we craved for Him. Think about when you were first born again. How close were you in that relationship? What was your standards like at that moment in time? It's the same way with when you first met your spouse or your girl of your dreams. How did you treat her? How important was it? What would you have done to keep it and to get it and maintain it? You were pretty desperate at that time to accomplish and succeed. But then think about after you've been with her for 20 years or 30 or 40. Now where's your marriage at? How much have you invested in keeping that? Or do you feel like you've already attained it? The same goes for a job. Do you do what you were willing to do on the first week of that job? On the fourth year of that job? Think about those situations and contrast your mindset. Okay, how did you feel about it? How did it make you feel? And how do those relate to how you served God? When you were at the rock bottom, were you desperate for God? Were you willing to serve Him at any level, no holds barred? How about that moment that you first got born again? Probably the same answer. But when we're in the good times in life and everything's going well, we do tend to think that we don't need Him as much. It doesn't mean it's a conscious thought, but our actions kind of show that. You're normally fighting the hardest when you see the need, and when things are great, you tend to back off the throttle some. There's a different type of motivation level. What I also would posture to you, there is a difference in standards. When you were wallowing in sin at your lowest low, whether that was using drugs or failing in your relationship or just cheating the job or the government on taxes or whatever it may be, your standards were pretty low. When you were pursuing that relationship with the girl of your dreams, when you just were born again and you were pursuing perfection in your Christianity, your standards are pretty high. When you're in the midst of worship, your standards are pretty high. When you're weeping, when you're weeping because of the joy of the Lord or because of your realization of how holy He is and how unholy you are. There's a difference in your standards because you're seeing clearly, and it tends to get muddied a little bit with the situations in our life. And the truth is, when we're close to God, we are embarrassed at our lows. We're embarrassed to think of how bad we got, how low we got, how we've treated Him. And the same way, there's a different vision when we're close to Him. When we're close to God, our standards are so high in comparison to that wallowing in sin or even just a temptation or maybe even just entertaining the thought of it. Those standards drop. So the goal should be that we get closer to Him, that we stay closer to Him. And let's just raise our standards. Let's raise our personal standards because let's be honest, everybody in our life that we care about is affected by them. Our own life, which we love, is affected by them. Our standard of life is affected by them. They're all an outcropping of our personal standards. So for us and our loved ones, our future and theirs, we need to remember that we're an example. There's people watching us, whether that's our kids, our family members, friends, our associates at work, or the unbelievers that are watching with a wary eye, perhaps thinking about being born again and taking on the same life as you because you were an encouragement to them. Those moments of lows and where we slip and we allow ourselves to get off course could have just ruined a potential conversion where we might have been able to help somebody because we were that example, because we are being watched, again, by those that are near us and those that are at a distance. So when you think about your goals, I want you to realize that just as your standards change, when you're close to God or when you're struggling, when you're on the mountaintop or in the valley, our goal is to write those things down. Write down our standards, write down our goals, write down if you were running a marathon and there was 10 steps to get there and you need to make pit stops to get water. Write down, I'm going to stop at this curve on this hill at the 4-mile marker or whatever it is. We should have those little goals on the way to our destination. And we should maintain those standards, but our standards only change as we get away from Him. The situations and circumstances in life will change. There will be ups and downs, but our standards don't have to change. They just do be based on our relationship with Him and how close we are to Him or how far we are from Him. So despite the failures in life, despite the setbacks, despite the valleys, continue to seek His face because God's economy isn't necessarily profited by those times when we get farther and farther away from Him. You can make progress, you can succeed, but when we start getting away from God, we'll start changing our standards, we'll start changing our goals, and little by little, it may not be conscious, but it happens. So stay focused, draw near to Him, and your entire life will work out better. Have a wonderful week, and thanks for liking and subscribing. You're greatly appreciated to help spread God's Word through this channel.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.